Hey everyone, Michelle Seidling here with another episode of Food Experience Unplugged. We often talk about positive food experiences, positive attitude, but what exactly does that mean and why is it important? Today we'll take a deep dive into that and explore positivity and the importance of having a positive attitude to fulfill your health goals. Here to help us do that is award winning speaker and author and encouragement engineer, Bob Brumm. This podcast is available on multiple platforms, including YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and others, as well as our website at foodexperienceunplugged.com. Please be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform for new content as it becomes available. Please also check out our website at foodexperienceunplugged.com for some free resources as you begin your health journey. Bob Brumm, welcome to Food Experience Unplugged.
Well, thank you, Michelle. It's a pleasure to be here. I look forward to entertaining your audience and giving them some great encouragement.
Absolutely. And no better person to do that than the encouragement engineer himself. What exactly is an encouragement engineer?
Well, thanks, Michelle. It's a combination of a couple things, and I'll go back in my life, if you will, a little bit, because when I was thinking about going to college, I wanted to be an engineer. And so I went to a school that was for engineering and architecture mainly, and I wanted to be a constructional engineering major. However, I found out that my background or my forte for Fortran and sciences wasn't that great. And so I ended up shifting my major to business and accounting. Well, doing that, I finished my 4-year degree and sat through a couple tax seasons in an accounting firm. And I realized that really wasn't me either. It was a little too much sitting still and crunching numbers, but you got a good insight about the breadth of a business and how to grow a business. And then I got into the IT field and telecommunications field. And so in that field, there's in any like with accounting, there's a lot of acronyms, and with IT, there's a lot of acronyms. They're acronym soups, if you will, on everything, and you can lose people very quickly. And what I found was that amongst these groups, a lot of times people didn't really understand the people, and we're people first. And that's where the idea of the encouragement engineer comes from, is because the idea that the people doing the work need to be encouraged or need that encouragement to show their value is very helpful, because you can get into the weeds with anything and go very deep with technical terms and technical analogies and things like that, but you don't know about the people doing the work. And we're all people first. It doesn't matter what your title is, how many certifications and degrees and letters you have after your name. We're all people first. And that idea of that encouragement helps to bring out the positiveness of people, helps people to connect with each other. It helps people to come together as a team, a cohesive team, to get those things that are needed to be done quickly. And so what that does is, as an encouragement engineer, it's that aspect of combining all those technical fields, if you will, accounting, business, IT, and combining that so that we all can work together in a positive manner to achieve greatness, not only with what we have within us, but as a group or as a group as a whole.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. And really just almost, capitalizing on people's strengths and
Yes.
what they bring. I love that. That is fantastic and a perfect name. Excellent. Oh, well, will you take a minute to introduce yourself? And you kind of alluded to it a little bit with your encouragement engineer, but what brought you to this point? You're an award-winning speaker, author, you're focused on positivity. What brought you to this point and what, I don't know, your journey, so to speak.
Well, my journey started, this whole process, if you will, started when I was 6 years old. When I was 6 years old, I lost my mother to cancer. And that was pretty traumatic. But if you think about it, as a 6 year old, you don't really know your parents that well. And so, 2 months after my mother passed away, my grandmother on my mother's side passed away. And then Christmas Day that same year, my grandfather passed away. I was the youngest of seven, and my dad was older. He was a World War II vet, lived through the Depression and all that. He was 47 when I was born. So this was something that occurred in life and that would continue on throughout my life. And what I realized, not when I was 6, but as I got older, was that I was here for a purpose. And I believe that purpose is to help people to get through life events. And they're going to occur. Death is a fact of life. 3 guarantees in life are death, taxes, and change. And we're all going to go through those. And what I learned was that I was able to go through these, but it was the fact that I could go through these and look back and see something that I learned and take something positive out of each experience. I remember, excuse me, when I was getting ready for my mother's funeral, literally, I was 6 years old. And I still remember going into the closet to get ready and looking out the window, and the sun was still coming up. She wasn't here. I couldn't do anything about that, but the sun was still coming up. And so what that taught me was the world's always going to continue to turn no matter what happens. And we have to be at peace with that. And we have to look at a perspective of what can we do from this situation? I learned that I had to grow. I learned that I had to continue on, even though she wasn't here, even though those older people in my life had passed away. And with that, I learned that I could continue. I learned that the people that were here with me, we were in this together, and that we could build strength, we could build closeness, we could, build a close bond, and that as we grew, there was always something that we could learn from every situation. And there's constantly things that happen, in life, no matter what it is. You could be walking down the street and, your shoelace breaks, and okay, maybe I should have got new shoelaces before, or maybe I should have, watched where I've been walking in case it got snagged on something. Um, Things occur that maybe we don't have control of, but we don't have to dwell on those facts. We don't have to dwell on the woulda, coulda, shouldas. That doesn't help the situation. You can do that for just a little bit, but you got to get out of that scenario. You got to look at, okay, what can we benefit from this situation? We learn things from the situations. We learn to build up strength in the situation, and we learn how to communicate possibly a little bit better from those situations. So those are some of the things that helped me to become the encouragement engineer as I grew older.
Okay, wow, and at such a young age, you realized that. That's a fantastic fantastic thing. You may not necessarily have had a complete understanding at that age, but just to have that glimmer of hope and positivity.
Yeah, and I think being around, being that my parents were older, and having older relatives, you got to see a different perspective. You got to see, with younger parents, maybe they don't have the experience the older ones do. So you really got we learned a much different set of skills for life than I think some people with younger parents.
True, true. Now, how has that now, undoubtedly, it started at 6, but undoubtedly you've seen it reinforced or emphasized or expanded upon at different stages of your life. Are there, like, how has that positivity really developed a little bit more in your life, you think?
Oh, it's definitely developed, and especially after you have kids. I've got 3 boys, and there's always something going on. As I explain to people, it's like, well, my wallet's always empty, and so is my fridge. But it's that idea of positivity. You help to show others, but the fact that something's always going on, something's always changing, things happen. Um, the boys, they'll do something, and it could be a good thing, and you're praising them for that, and then you go around the corner, and the next thing there's a bad thing that happens. And if that's life balance, and that could be a bad thing because of somebody else did something that, again, you have no control over. But you've got to look at the whole scenario, and you've got to learn to respond versus react. And that's something you get to teach, not only yourself and remind yourself of it, but you get to teach your kids and remind your siblings a lot of times, and your spouse. But that has always been a fact in life, of that things are going to happen. Just the other day, my son, he was going to work, hit a curb, and popped his tire. Okay, things happen. What do you got to do? He knew he had to change it. He just needed a tool. But I had a moment. I ran up, got the tool for him, helped him out, and get the tire changed. Those are types of things that occur that, you know, life happens. We've got to be ready for that. We can't look at it as, oh man, my poor tire, oh, it ruined my day. No, it didn't. You got another tire in the trunk. You got a spare. It got him to work after he changed the tire. You were safe. You didn't blow out on the highway. I mean, there's a lot of different things you got to look at that you can be thankful for. A lot of times people always talk about that, in traffic. Oh, this guy cut me off. They want to tell him he's number one and all this and chase him down. Really? What good is that? You don't know if his wife's in the hospital. You don't know if his parents just passed away. You don't know what his predicament is. Your car is okay. If he cut you off, you stopped in time so you didn't cause an accident. Respond to some of these situations that life will, give to you, if you will, and take the time to respond properly, because there is a different perspective that you can look at, so that you're not getting stressed out. You're not getting worried. You're not having all this fret and craziness in your life because of how you react to something instead of respond.
I love that. I love the react versus respond. Now, is that now I mean, obviously you're a positive person. Have have you always been like that since that glimmer of, the sun coming up at age 6? Or have you had little challenges to that positivity?
Oh, I've always had challenges to it. It's how we choose. It starts in our mind. How do we choose to respond to the situation? Like I said, my that pattern of elder relatives passing away continued on. I tried to take the real estate exam in Michigan. I lived in Michigan for 25 years, and I failed it the first two times. I failed technical exams. Things happen. You break up with girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, and you get through that because you learn something. Okay, maybe I wasn't mature enough for that situation at that time. What can I do better the next time? So those are events that have occurred in my life that by no means is my life roses and butterflies by any means. It's I had a situation where I was driving to work one morning at 5 in the morning, and my alternator went out, and the whole dashboard just started flaking out on me and going
Ooh.
crazy. And then the power in the car just luckily I was able to get over, but it happens to everyone. And I could, be mad at it and cursing the world, but no, I had auto insurance, I had roadside assistance. I called the guy, you know, the road person that patrols the roads. They pulled up behind me, made sure I was all right, gave me water. I was like, hey, okay, cool, this is nice. But yeah, I had to wait there for 45 minutes for the tow truck and get me to the shop. But I wasn't hurt. I wasn't hit by anybody. I had a water. I was okay and was able to tell my boss, hey, I'll be in a little bit late because this car problem happened. How do we choose to respond to these life events that will occur? um, it's a starts here in your heart and in your mind, and you have to be conscious of that. And there's many times where yeah, you'll react. It's just what happens. You'll get mad, and you can do that for a few minutes, but then you're going to realize, hold on, is that really helping anything?
Mm.
No, it really doesn't. Worry does us no good. It's like a rocking chair. You get a whole lot of effort out of it, but you get nowhere. So why do it? Pray about it. Hand it off to somebody that can take care of it. And so those are some of the ways I do it in my personal life to help keep that positivity, because by no means is my days are they'll go up and down. I wake up, I'm thankful I wake up, and then the phone can ring, or I get a text from work or something, and things can go awry very quickly. But that's I'm able to handle it. That's the other thing to be thankful for. I can handle that. I've got capabilities, I've got skills, and we need to remember that.
Yeah, I love that, and just kind of how positivity plays into that react versus respond.
Definitely.
And is now how in terms of goal achievement, regardless if you've got health goals, if you have career goals, whatever the situation is, how does that positivity play into the goal achievement?
It's very integral. Let's say that. I mean, it doesn't matter what the goal is, small or large. If just take money savings for an example, because I've written a book about that. It was one of my first books. Do you have money to burn? And it was because I kept hearing people say I can never save money. But wait a second, let's look at that. And if you set out a goal, I want to save $1,000. Well, how are you going to do that? Well, it could be a big sum of money depending on how much you made. You know, how are you going to do that? Let's break it down. When we look at climbing Mount Everest, the guy doesn't just jump up to the top. It takes him several days and possibly months to get up there sometimes. How are we breaking it down? You can take $20 out of each paycheck and build it up as time goes along. If you get a bonus, put more towards it. You could put $100 a month if you can do that. You break it down into smaller steps that are attainable. And knowing that you have that ability to do that is part of the first steps. Knowing, okay, one, I can do this. Two, how am I going to do it? Okay, let's try these. We're going to have different variables there. You can, like I said, $20 a week. You can do $100 a month. You can, however you want to break it down, but you're doing it in small chunks so that you're not trying to do everything at once. Because if we try to do everything at once, our goals, you'll see them fade off into the distance. Oh, it's too hard. And you'll see that New Year's resolutions are notorious for this. The first year, yeah, I'm going to go work out. The gyms are packed. By the end of January, they're empty again. Because everybody loses that interest about 2 weeks. They think, they're going to go in there in 2 hours a day, and then you realize this is hard. It hurts. I'm not in shape for this. all the negatives and doubt come in, and you've got to be able to curb that. Those are going to come in no matter what. And there's times where they come into my life as well. Many times I try to do a task and I'd overwhelm myself with this and that and this and the variables. My wife would just stop and just break it down. And then it's okay, let's look at this methodically. And that's a pattern I try to do with anything. It doesn't matter whether it's a thing that I'm doing around the house. A few weeks back, I went outside and one of my sprinkler heads seemed to not be working. I thought it was just a sprinkler head. So I went to the store, got a new sprinkler head, changed it, went to turn on the pump to test it. Nothing. Okay, that little $7 sprinkler head change out now turned into $250 because I needed a new pump. But I
Mhm.
knew how to change that. It wasn't, this, that, and I didn't have to call somebody. Luckily, I had the skill to be able to go and change that old pump out and put in the new one. And that saves me a lot of money. But that fact that I don't dwell on, okay, this whole thing is broke. Eventually, things are going to wear out. It's the fact of life. That's why they make replaceable parts. And so, the one thing you can't replace is your body. Remember that. I mean, you can replace parts, yes, but let's take care of our body. That's a big thing. And the types of food you eat, what you put into your mind, those are some big factors in being fit for yourself, for your family, for those that love you. You got to be around here for a while.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So positivity, in a sense, is food for your body. Is you're fueling yourself with that type of attitude or mindset?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And you can hear the excitement and the energy in my voice when I talk about it because it does give you that energy, that opportunity, that hope, that vision, that possibility. When I talk to groups of students, whether it's high school or colleges, I'll talk to them about different things. And one of the things I talk to them is I bring up an example of dating. Are you
Mhm.
afraid of two or three letters? And it's kind of looking at me like, what? Are you afraid of yes or are you afraid of no? How are you looking at the situation? Oh, she may say no. You're looking at it wrong. What if she says yes? Imagine the opportunities you have. What about, the experience you can have if she does say yes? Don't focus on the no. No is a two-letter word. Are you going to stop your world because of two letters? Oh, no, you shouldn't.
True, definitely. Wow. So why is positivity so challenging for some people, you think?
Well, and it's a double-edged sword because a lot of times the general media, or if you will, I'm not saying media as in types of media, but they may say that positivity is a Pollyanna, but it's not. It's an effect that does affect your mind. It affects your body and blood flow. When you get excited about something, think about when you were 18 and maybe you just graduated from high school, you were with your friends, you're having a good time, you were in the car, you had a great song going on the radio, and you're just, you're jamming, you're stomping on the steering wheel, you're going, you're having a good time. And look at you, you're feeling that, your smile. What is that doing? That feeling that comes over you is warmth, of fun, and you feel energized. That's physical. It's not Pollyanna. Positivity affects you physically, mentally, and that's what's exciting. It gives you the opportunity to see hope, the opportunity to see an advantage of action, and it affects your body so that you've got more energy, you're doing more. That's awesome. And why not feel like that all the time? And again, it's a balance because there's going to be things that happen. Okay, we can't control when people pass away. That's a fact of life, um, and that's not easy to get over for many.
Mhm.
That you may need professional people to help with that, and that's okay too. How do we have to deal with it? Look at the positive of just that scenario, if you will. Okay, if somebody passes away, I mean, when like I said, I was
Mm.
6, my mother passed away. My dad took us to some child psychologists because that's a big thing for a child at that age to, try to comprehend. And was it easy? Was it fun? No, you had to go to this guy and talk about stuff. You really didn't know he didn't know the guy and he kept asking these weird questions and maybe his office smelled funny, whatever. But in retrospect, you learn that, okay, there are some things that people need extra help with, things that, you don't necessarily understand at the time, but when you are part of it, you experience it, you grow, you learn, you get stronger from it. Then you can look back and say, okay, now I see why that retrospect can be helpful. And I think that's there's pieces on the opposite side of positivity, the negativity that we need to look at and understand that we can grow from these scenarios, even with the current situation with COVID-19 and all that goes on. people are losing jobs. People are, at a loss. They may not, they're not sure what's going on with their future of their company or their job, and that's very hard. It's very scary. But we do have an opportunity, and I was talking to another guest on my podcast the other day about this, the idea that we can slow down just a little bit. It gives us that opportunity to slow down and get to know each other, get to have conversations like this, get to remind ourselves that other people are going through some other things too, and we can talk to them and we can, see how they're really doing and understand what they're doing. We get to communicate a little better. So there's some, there's a good side to a lot of the scenarios that go on, although it's hard to see because when we're buried in the middle of it, it's hard to see the greatness that's out there.
Absolutely. So now, is it a question of, in terms of moving forward, in terms of achieving your goals, is it a question of, if you have, can you do that with a negative attitude, or is it more, a question of the process of maybe turning toward a positive attitude first, and then you can go forward versus
It,
remaining in
well,
negativity?
look at it this way, and I'll give you a scenario. If you're driving a truck, okay, and you get into a big mud pit, and you start spinning your wheels, and you're surrounded by mud, you're just going to be seeing all more mud, right? But you got to stop a minute. Wait a second. How can I leverage out of this? What's that one point that I can just turn just a little bit and get the wheels to catch on something so I can pull me out of this? That's the difference in positivity. You've got to be able to see that one glimmer of hope. And Viktor Frankl wrote about this in his book about the Nazi concentration camps because that's what kept him alive is that hope, that one distinct thing that he could get out of this scenario somehow, that he was going to be better on that other side once he got out of this scenario. And we need to keep that factor in our mind. There's a piece that even when we're in the midst of something, how we can look just a little bit differently to get out of this situation, to get that traction, to start seeing betterment. People could be lost a job, they're backed up on a mortgage payment, car payment, whatever. Oh no, what's it going to look like when I get out, I get my work back and I got to pay all this stuff back. Okay, let's focus on the betterment. You're going to get your job back. Cool. Okay, this too shall pass. This will stop. This will get a little bit better. But you got to have one focus, one glimmer to look at something and say, yes, we can do better than this, or we can get out of this scenario and it will improve. It may not be in the yards and leaps you want, but it's going to be in small steps, like we talked about climbing that mountain. Small steps, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And patience is a big virtue, and that's one I have a hard time with sometimes is patience. But I pull myself back and just got to remember, okay, sometimes things take a little longer than you expect.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. So what are some, now you've spoken to a host of different groups and worked with different groups. What are some success stories about how people have used positivity, either, getting out of the mud puddle,
Yeah,
or, just having that glimmer of hope like you did at age 6, or something in between?
yeah. There's I was working with a client, a coaching client, and he was ready to hang up his business, and he came to me and said, "Look, I need some help. I'm tired of this, people undercutting me, thinking, I need to be cheaper, things like that." And he had a painting contracting business. And I worked with him and we went over a program and basically that's what we started with. It's like, okay, you're focusing on all these negatives. That's gotta stop. I said, what do you have right now? So one, be grateful. Okay, what do you have right now? You've got a great mind, you got great talent for what you do, you're physically in good shape, you've got a roof over your head. Okay, so we got some basics. You got food in the fridge. We're good. Now, what's your ideal day look like? And I had him write it out. And then what's your ideal week look like? And write that out. And your ideal month. So you start to, as you write you're getting learning in two parts, not only in the physical writing, but in the kinesthetic. Because as you write, most people will read it to themselves as well. So
Mhm.
you're hearing it in your head, you're writing it down, you're getting two ways of learning that take up 70 to 80% of your learning capability right off the bat, and that helps to instill that. I also had him start to listen to some better audio CDs, audiobooks, as well as read books. So many times people will complain and they'll sitting on the couch, not doing anything, watching the TV. We have the most power in anybody's, great fortitude, if you will, of power by pressing that button on the remote control, turning that TV off. We don't need to hear all that blabber of how bad everything is. Focus on what you need to do. And that may mean turning that off. It may mean reading better books that give you that glimmer of hope, reading the opportunities of things you have right now, and reading books that maybe are in line with who you are. Okay.
Mm,
People that have gone through hard times and gotten out of it and grown big businesses, or people that have gone through hard times and found love again, whatever the case may be. What are we focusing? As he did this, within 2 months, his business started coming back and growing back. That year, he made 64,000 in his business. The next year, he doubled that. The third year, he almost doubled it again. This past year, he had a huge project, one of his best years ever. Did a distillery here in St. Petersburg, Florida, and just getting some great work, great referrals. Is focused on positive mindset on a daily basis. He integrates it into his day daily, with some suggestions that I provided years ago, and that helps people to see that it's helping them see that hope, helping them to see that advantage of their efforts towards positiveness. And that's a good example. I use a lot because it is such a fun example that he was just buried in the mud, and then once we got him a little bit of traction to see above, what's above out of the mud. Hey, this is kind of cool. Okay, now we can move on, and now we can start going for that. I've seen it in other clients too that are just, sometimes people get inundated with everyday stuff, and it's so hard. And I understand that. But again, we go back to the basis of what do you have? You're breathing. Okay, that's a good thing. Okay, you have a car, you have a job, even though you may be on your feet for 12, 14 hours a day and it doesn't pay that much. I understand. But as you talk to people, imagine the hope and the glimmer you're able to give them in different stories that you provide them as a hairdresser or barber, whatever it may be. You offer some greatness of what you've experienced by talking to them. And so that's a way to think of the positiveness you have within us. Oh, we all have it within us. We just have to refocus our mind, like I said, and that's part of the encouragement engineering. Because as an encouragement engineer, you people say, "Well, you're a motivational speaker." No, you can't make somebody be motivated. As an encouragement engineer, you basically show them here's a little bit different way of looking at something. How about
mm,
trying that? And then they go after that, and they find the results they want to achieve.
I love that. I love that tie in with the encouragement, really just focusing on what's important to them
Right,
and what's going to motivate them. It's
right.
kind of like almost like the step before the motivation.
It's got to come from here. I have a quote that I say, "If the goal is worth the reward, be prepared to take the steps necessary to get there." So you've got to be prepared to take those steps. Is it going to be easy? It may not be, but we got to take those steps. And it starts here and here. You believe in something long enough in your heart and in your head, you're going to find ways to get it done. You're going to find ways to achieve what you want. And that's where the positivity helps solidify that aspect of taking those actions, of going after that goal and achieving that goal.
I love that. Now, you had, different adult examples, growing up and in your early years. Are have they Did they display that same sense of positivity that really kind of propelled you along to this point?
Well, let me yes and no. And I say that because they lived it. My father and, like I said, his siblings, they lived through the Great Depression. He was a World War II vet. They went through some stuff. They knew how to scrimp. They knew how to save. They knew how to get through the hard times. That generation, it was about living for a bigger cause. And I think our generation now has forgotten that. And we need to realize that, what, we're all in this together, as we've heard so much lately. There's a bigger concern here. People. It doesn't matter your skin color because we all bleed red when we get cut. And we all want our family to do well. And we cry when we're sad. We all do that. So are we doing the best we can do with what we have? And that my parents, that generation, they lived that scenario. They lived that. Okay, you get through it. You focus on continuing moving. You focus on, that moving forward. This too shall pass, if you will. That this can have a positive outcome. I know after my mother passed, I remember to this day, my brother and I, my dad would be out getting the lawn mowed because we couldn't push it yet, and we'd climb the apple trees in our backyard, and he'd come by and tug on our legs, and we'd giggle and laugh, and he'd make things fun so that we had some normalcy as children of fun and playing and things like that. So there was always an effort to make sure the kids had some type of normalcy, if you will, even though the situation was different.
I love that. Just really, they made an effort to infuse positivity into your
Yes.
life.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's so important. Now, what you mentioned, kind of getting out of the mud, really
Mhm.
focusing on it. What steps can people take to, to get out of that mud, to
Yeah.
really focus on the positivity? It's
Sure.
likely it didn't happen overnight for
Oh,
you
no,
or for
no,
your
it
your
didn't.
others. So,
Yeah. No, that's again, that's a big key to that. Patience, prayer. Those are some key steps there. Again, you start by being thankful for what you have. Waking up in the morning. My daily routine starts at 4:30 in the morning. I wake up and I say, "Thank God, I've got another day." Okay, I get down. I do some push-ups. I'll do about 55 push-ups to start my day, so I can get the oxygen going in my body. I've got this body. I got to keep it in good shape. I'm thankful for that. And then I'll drink some water, take my vitamins, read some Bible verses, read something, get the mind stimulated and going. Those things, it's a habit that starts. I mean, an oak tree doesn't start by being a huge oak tree out of the seed. It starts as a little seedling and then it grows bigger and bigger and bigger over time. And that's, we have to remember some of these, changing to a positive outlook, if you will, it takes time. You're going to have those scenarios where you just have a bad day and just everything's not that good. But if you stop for a minute and just look at it, you live through it. You're still on the green side of the grass. That's all things are, everything else, okay, I'm still on the green side of the grass. Until I'm not, it's a great day. We put it in a perspective of that nature. And I've lived through that scenario where all of a sudden somebody's gone, literally in the next day. You don't know when that will be. So live your best day, now. You can't live your best day by complaining about everything. And like I said, some days are just going to be not good, but you're alive and you can live through them. And that's one thing to be thankful for. So start with thanks, thanks, move your body, try to get up and do something to move your body every day, whether it's push-ups, whether it's walk, especially in this scenario, working out, whatever it may be. Ride your bike, feel that wind in your hair. Say, I hate riding bikes, it hurt. Do you like the wind in your hair? Change the perspective. It's not just the pedaling, the wind in your hair, being outside in the fresh air, being able to move faster than you walk, it's enjoyable. So think of those little things that you can look at in every occurrence where something's enjoyable. When you say, "Oh, I don't like running," okay, don't run, walk. Or if you run, run in small segments so it's not as painful, if you will. You're breathing when you run. You can take in air. You can take, blow out bad air. Those are things to be thankful for. You get to see other people. You have eyes that can see, possibly. Those are all great things to think and be positive about.
I love that. And
Yeah.
positivity is contagious too.
Yes.
So, hopefully it's a good virus that you want to spread to.
Well, and you mentioned that it's an easy thing to do, and we're doing it right now. We're smiling. You
Mhm.
can give a smile to everybody, and it doesn't cost you a dime. You can say hello and just, how are you doing? Or hold the door open for somebody. Common manners are a great way. And that's something everybody has. Maybe they don't remember they have them, but they have them, and you can share that with everybody.
Mm, absolutely. Now, undoubtedly, with your positive attitude, hopefully that's contagious throughout your family, throughout maybe your extended circles.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those scenarios where I like to have fun. Not all situations are you're able to do that, but let's try to have fun. Make a fun comment about something, make people laugh, enjoy it. In IT, when you're working long hours, which you will, you work early mornings, late nights. You got to have fun. You got to break it up because you just get, and you got to, get through that monotony, and having fun and joking around and smiling helps people to do that.
Mhm. Absolutely, I love that. That's so important, and it undoubtedly is helping your success, and you're able to encourage people toward their own success and really discovering that. I love that about your focus on positivity.
Thank you.
Oh, so Bob, how can people get in contact with you?
Well, I'm available on several social media platforms. I'm all over the web. My website is www.bobbrummspeaks.com. You can get a hold of me there, and it has links to all my previous books, It's got links to my podcast as well, Encouragement Engineering. They can go on Facebook. I'm out there on Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, even doing some stuff on TikTok until the government closes that. We'll see. But, it's for now, I'm out there all over the place. They can certainly Google me and contact me on any of those platforms to get in touch with me and see how I can help.
Okay, absolutely. We will include all of that in the show notes. And as we wrap up, what parting words would you have? What words of wisdom to those listening in to try to give, a glimmer of positivity, a glimmer of hope, a glimmer of encouragement in moving forward?
I would say definitely be thankful for what you have. It may not be much, but that's okay. If we're on the green side of the grass, it's a great day. Continue with that idea. Continue the fact that, you know what, I'm here. I'm here for a purpose. If we live our purpose, that's that much greater. We get to share that greatness, we get to share with the world. And when we share that with the world, that greatness expands. Like you said, it's contagious. People smile more, people are having fun. That's what we want, is a fun, contagious world where people understand each other and can smile and talk to each other on a great level and help each other to grow. Why not do that? Why not help somebody to grow? It just benefits the whole environment, whether it's just you or 400 other people. Share what you know. It's a great thing to do.
Absolutely, I love that, and because it's benefiting you as well as somebody else. It's
Oh,
not
definitely.
it's a give and take situation.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
wonderful. Well, Bob, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today and for showing us a positive attitude and the benefits thereof.
well, thank you, Michelle, and I appreciate your time today. Thanks for having me.